Well, hello, happy Thursday, and good morning, lovelies. I'm staring into my chat and I want to make sure that you can all hear me. Can you all hear me? Can you all see me? All hear me? Here we go. Okay, let's get right into it. Okay, beautiful. So, I want to dive right in and I want to say that we spent these last few weeks we were talking about internalizing versus memory. We were talking about ideas, aka chops, that I like to use when soloing, when playing different ideas, different ways of being created, different sounds, and a bunch of cool things like that. And today I want to take a different direction. Today we're gonna have things that we're gonna play. I feel like the last week it was more exercise based, which is, hey, I'm not against exercise drumming bass, but I also think what we're gonna talk about today will really help you become a mature musician, more aware musician. And it's funny that there's this myth going around that if you seem like you can play fast, if you seem like you can play crazy enough, that means that you're considered to be a good drummer. And actually, you know what? It's completely the opposite. What I feel is that the more you are aware of how the music sits, and I'll get into that, the more you are aware of how the music sits, how it grooves, how it vibes, the difference of different genres of music, and the importance of how and what components in the band as the drummer, and what do I have to do to make the music and the groove sit. To me, that shows the mature musician, or the most versatile musician, or the most experienced musician, rather than hey, listen, I'm not saying that that's not fun. Like, listen, I like doing that stuff all the time, but it's like we want to cover all the grounds. And I'm just going to give you some analogies, okay? I'm just going to give you some analogies. And I think I gave this analogy last time, so maybe I'll change it up. Let me pick a new food. Hot dog. Actually, no, I gave an example of a hamburger or sandwich. Okay, hot dog, okay? Let's say you're like really hungry and you haven't eaten for like 5 hours, which is like me. And let's say I haven't eaten for 5 hours, and you come to me and I'm coming to your town and you're like, "Sarah, we know you're so hungry. Here's some ketchup." I'm be like, "What is this? Like you're making ketchup? Like, that's not going to fill me up." But then you're going to be like, "But ketchup tastes so good. Like, it's so red. It's so pretty. It's brand name. It tastes so good and it looks so good." But I'm like, "Hello, like, I'm hungry. It's not going to fill me up." Then you're like, "Okay, here's some bread. Okay, I'm feeling satiated. Okay, here's the meat or veggie hot dog, whatever you prefer. Okay, I'm satiated. Now I'm ready for the ketchup. Okay, now I'm ready to go vria, 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 vria." But it's like, I can't be ready to go vria, 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 vria if I don't have the foundations ready, okay? I want to make that very, very clear. And I can't remember who wrote it, but I saw a lovely comment saying that you like my henna. You know what? It's all coming off now. I had a shoot last week, and it was like, I don't know if, can you see it in the camera? Yeah, it's all coming off now, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, okay. Um, so yeah, ketchup is great. Ketchup comes near the end, but we need, I think, food to sustain ourselves. We need the groove in the pocket to sustain the music, to make the people keep dancing and flowing. Okay, so that's the importance of groove and of pocket. Well, I mean, that's literally not the importance, but I want to show you the impact of the importance of groove and pocket. And I also see this a lot. I see this, that some people say like, um, "Oh, this person this person is a groove player." Like, I'll see people, like, they'll have like kick snare hats, which I love also, and then they'll be given, "Oh, this person's a groove player." But some people just say this person's a groove player because they don't like going vria, vria, vria. Like, the people who go vria, 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 like some of like the top players that go vria, 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 have a heavy, solid groove. So it's like, because when I see a lot of these comments made, and a lot of these, I don't know if you want to call them stereotypes or generalizations, some of them don't sit well with me, because it's just like, there's so much more to it. Just because you have kick, snare, hats doesn't mean you have the best pocket. To say that I just play groove, I just like to play. Okay, but like what kind of groove do you like to play? Who inspired you? What music do you listen to? Let me hear your groove. I just feel like the passion and like awareness is very important rather than saying, yeah, I'm fast. Yeah, I like to play groove and pocket. Like, and I just think it's important to understand all of these like definitions and terminologies. Okay, so let's get even more deeper into it. Okay, let's talk about. Okay, wait. First, I want to give you another story. Okay, I had this session 5 years ago. It was for a blues artist. Okay, now let me preface this all with another. My mind is like, I'm so excited because there's like so. I'm just like, I want to go this direction. I want to go that direction. And I'm like, Sarah, I haven't had my cup of coffee this morning, so my brain is like, so imagine like this is me without coffee yet. Okay. So 5 years ago, I had a session, and it was for a blues artist. Okay. Now let me go back a couple of steps. So keep this in your mind. I grew up listening to Indian music. I grew up listening to Indian music that stems from percussion. And this Indian music that I grew up listening to, of course, it was Bollywood. So Bollywood meaning commercial music. But a lot of this music was folk. Like, like they say like indie. It like imagine that, but in like a different kind of sense. Like folk, classical, semi-classical, where there's no like click tracks, there's no metronomes or electronic. It's very raw and it's very organic. So when we'd all be playing growing up, all this percussion and drums and all these Indian instruments, it was like we were locking into each other. Like I wasn't worried. I didn't even like. I never practiced to a metronome back in the day. Like I never even played a groove to a metronome. For me, it was how can we, as a unit, all of us lock in together. And it's like there are parts in the grooves. So this groove is called the Kherwa. 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 If you go back, like I think to like the first or second stream, I talk about this groove a lot. But just someone say we can't hear? Oh, Jiten, try refreshing. Please let me know. So, okay. So there's this groove called the Kherwa. And basically the uguduga is on the 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and So this was the first groove that I was playing. And this groove, there's a lot of push pull. There's sometimes we'd be like pulling back the groove, and it's like, so there's even the whole concept of pulling back and pushing forward, where in groove, when you're pulling back necessarily doesn't mean you're slowing down, but it's like there's like you're just kind of like leaning back, and there's sometimes you want to drive but you necessarily don't want to speed up a couple of BPM. So here's like one of the terminologies is like when someone says sit into it, lay back. So for instance, somebody like me who's very naturally hyper, if I'm playing a song that I have to lay back, I have to be like, yo, Sarah, like check in with yourself, like okay, and I have to lay back. Whereas like, okay, we want to push it, and that's easy for me. Okay, so I'm like, is this resonating with everybody? Like, is everybody understanding what I'm talking about? So here's one concept of groove and pocket. So we're going to get into a lot of these terminologies, okay? It's like the mechanics, everything that we've talked about and everything that all the coaches have been talking about, the fantastic, incredible coaches from Jeremio. There are so much things about stickings and things, but today it's like applying everything that we have talked about in terms of best cool Indian grooves, like this fusion stuff, the independence, the hip, whatever we've talked about. Now it's like we get away from right, left, right. We're getting away from, okay, this beat. Okay, now we're getting into the okay, the feeling of it, the pocket of it. And for people who are not sure what pocket is, oh, some people are saying it's a bit low. Okay, you know what? I can even turn on my microphone. La 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 la. Is that any better for anybody? Is it really low for anybody? Check. Check. La la. Is that better? Is that better? Is it really low? Okay, that's okay. That's okay. You know what? Let's turn this bad boy up. Do. Yo, is that better? Is that check 1 2? Check 1 2. Is that any better? Sounds good. Is that any better? Good here? Cool. Amazing. Okay, great. Okay. So back to what we were talking about. All right. So we were talking about in all of these other lessons, again, we talked about right, left, left, and all of these things like that, and all of these mechanical, practical aspects. But now we're going to talk about the oomph, the feel, the groove, and the pocket. For those who don't know what pocket means, if pocket is just literally like a fancy word for groove. It's like, hey, I have a tiny marble that I want to put into my pocket. And it's like, like, let's say your pocket, let's say on my tights, my pocket is like this small. And like, like that, okay, no, here's a better example. Okay, my dad got this like free laptop case like a couple of years ago. And I'm like, I had to go somewhere yesterday, and I'm like, I don't want to just put the laptop in my bag. I'm like, I need a laptop case. So I'm like, let me grab that laptop case. And my laptop is like maybe an inch bigger than the case. But what I managed to do is I opened the laptop case and I put the laptop in. And I managed to fit it in. And it fits so perfectly, like I was like, oh my God. And that's, to me, that's what pocket's like. It's like when every definition of pocket is like, everything is working together. Everything is fitting together. Okay, and you know me. Like, by now I think you know me, where I don't like giving one right answer because I don't believe in that. So when I'm even saying that everything in the band or everything in the groove fits perfectly, and that's the definition of pocket, also it could mean that everything doesn't fit perfectly. And that's why it fits perfectly, because it doesn't fit perfectly, and that's why it's called pocket. So what I'm trying to say is that, like, the application is everything. There's not one specific answer to this, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? So let me go back a little bit, okay? So back to the whole, Indian thing, playing a lot of folk, Indian classical music. It was all about locking in with each other. Pulling. And it's like we weren't measuring like it's like it's not quantified. And sometimes I feel like when I started getting into the world of like sequencers, and when I started getting into the world of like pop, like R&B, like actually like not obviously like I've been listening to this stuff forever, but actually like getting hired to play these gigs, like about 6 years ago I started playing, in church, like gospel music in church. And it was all about playing to a click. It was all about and even if you slightly went slow, like 1 BPM, everyone would go and I'd be like so it's like I had to reprogram my whole perspective and opinion about pocket, because then I started hearing different things from different people, and then I started getting like even more confused. So then I started getting people telling me that to have a good pocket means this side of me over here, everything is dependent on the situation. It's like me wearing a cute dress and going to sleep. It's like me getting all dolled up and going to sleep, literally. Like, it's like saying that one thing applies to everything, or it's like wearing my pajamas and going out. What genre of music? What is pocket to each genre of music? Let's go even deeper. What does pocket mean to that person? Like a lot of the people, I like to be as versatile as I can. I love squeezing myself in different situations with different people who come from all walks of earth and life, and who come from different backgrounds. So you will see, or you've seen, or well, at least I have seen, is that it depends, Like there's for example, some bass players that I know that I've played with, and they really have a tendency to lay back. And if I follow them, it'll start to drag. But they like to play laid back, and then I notice that it sounds good when I'm slightly ahead and they're laying back. Or sometimes there will be band members who are just like constantly rushing, and then I have to, or the drummer has to be the soldier and push it back. So it's like, there's so many components. We're just talking, like right now, we're literally talking about pushing it forward, and we're talking about laying it back. We're not, like, that's just like one aspect of groove and pocket. It's all of these things that we have to be aware of. So I gave this grandiose, all these analogies and stuff, just to make it very, very clear on how this topic is not just, hey, let me turn on the metronome and let me lock into the metronome. It's like, oh my God. Okay. And it's like, that's like, context is everything. And the rise of social media and the access of having like crazy amount of YouTube videos and books is like, I love it. Like, I'm all for it. I love this, like 100%. But you know, yin yang, you need that balance. I need that balance. One needs that balance. That always, I believe, I like to, and I recommend it to always refer to music. It doesn't matter whether, like, I'll give you an example, right? If I'm playing this, okay, it's not just, why am I hitting the tip on the hi-hat? Why? I'm not just hitting the tip on the hi-hat. There's a reason of it. Maybe it's a verse. Maybe it's like a tight, right? Maybe now it's like, maybe now we're at the bridge. And this, all this, or this, or this, or what if like I'm playing a stadium gig, and let's say the stadium gig is like a sold out gig, and I play like this, and the band is going, and I'm going, everyone's gonna be like, yo, Sarah, like, hey, we're not feeling that. Because you want to go, you know, you want to, instead of, and this still works. But you understand what I'm saying? You're hearing like open guitars, electric guitars. You're hearing the build of, so these, to me, this is all like maturity in terms of listening, maturity in terms of nuances, maturity of understanding first, pulling back, pushing forward, which we're still going to get into. There's so much to talk about. And then there is the sound sources, right? Like, I think this is so, like, not talked about enough. It's like, and some people think it's common sense. Maybe it is common sense. Maybe it's not common sense. But so, like, I mean, if it is common sense, that just means that I don't have common sense. Because it takes time to develop, and we're always developing our maturity, like in music. The more you listen to, the more you're like, okay, this feels, you know, there's like, let's say you're building up a song, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, it's like, you know, like, it's like things like that. It's like you do a gigantic fill and you build. And like the bass goes. It's like these things. Like literally, like I have goosebumps. Like I have goosebumps on my arms. Like it satisfies my soul so much. And you know, I feel like playing with passion, playing with intent, this will contribute to your pocket, because and you must notice, like if you watch like Nate Smith play, you watch Bernard Purdy play, you watch whomever play, you see, you know, don't be afraid to, and it this all helps with pocket, you know, like even, you know, like I feel like this is, you know, this is the statement that actually drives me insane. This is like my pet. I hear this statement and it like drives me crazy. The statement that just play a simple groove 2 and 4 on the snare. And I have, for a lack of a better way to explain things, I have used that and I have said that, like, hey, just play 2 and 4 on the snare, play the simple beat. But it's like simple? Do you think 2 and 4? Do you think backbeat is simple? Oh, please. Like, to me, it's easier to play paradiddles and, like, voice them, like, 500 different ways. But if you're telling me that just play a simple beat 2 and 4 on the snare, oh my God, baby, you're in trouble by the music gods. Okay? Because there's so many different ways of playing this 2 and 4 on the snare. And I'll give you another example. So when I 5 years ago, I got asked to do a session, and this was the time period where the only thing I was thinking about is locking into a metronome at that point, because I'm just like, I'm playing, gospel music in a church. I'm starting to get hired for more R&B, like stadium. Like at the time, it was more like less improvised, less jazz. It was like, okay, a little bit like playing for somebody. And for me, I believe like if you really want to get good or comfortable with something, it's like you really have to immerse yourself. Like I forgot everything around me. I'm just like, I don't care. I'm gonna live, breathe, and die with this metronome in my hand. I would go to sleep with the metronome. I would walk around class at school, and I would have like a metronome in my ear. Like I was like literally crazy obsessed with the metronome and loops and things like that. So anyway, I go to this session. It's a blues artist, and I didn't listen to his music beforehand, which is a mistake. So the first mistake, when you're walking into playing with somebody for the first time, and listen, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you play. Actually, no, I care what you play. I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. I don't care who you are, okay? You're being hired to play the drums. You'll be playing at least pocket for a minute, okay? At least. You can't argue with me on that. Okay, if you want to argue with me on that, fine. You'll be playing pocket for at least 30 seconds. Okay, I swear to you, if you're playing drums, you'll walk into even if it's fully improvised, avant-garde, like, sticks flying, like whatever, at least you'll probably at some point play pocket for 30 seconds. Okay, so I say this to say that this is for everybody. Okay, this is not for, I like to play jazz, or I don't know, I've heard all these like things before. I'm just like, oh my God, like, So anyway, enough of my ranting. I go to the session for this blues artist, and I didn't check out his music beforehand, which is one mistake. Whenever you're walking into a new whenever you're walking into a new scenario or a new scene, just go on Google, even like 5 minutes before, just Google who you're playing for. That's what I do, is like, before I meet somebody, I just like open up a YouTube page and just find one video or something, or an article or something, just so I can get an idea of what I'm walking into, so I know. Maybe sometimes it's going to be, like, I've walked into some situations where the vibe is very mellow, and they're looking for someone like me to hype it up, which I'm always down for, And this actually leads me to another story. Sarah, stop jumping stories. Finish one story before you move on to the next story. Oh, my God. Okay, back to the first story. So, okay, I have to remember this story that I want to say. It's a very funny and relevant story. Okay, I'll put that to the side. Put that on one side of my brain. Okay, so, it was my fault. I didn't check him out before. And I walked into the session. I listened to the song. Cool. We turn on the metronome. And I was so solid to this click. I was so tight to this click. I felt like I need City TV, or I need the biggest radio station, or news channel to come and film me and be like, hey, like, she is sounding killer. I actually was like, I got it. You know what happened? While I was playing, the artist went, stop. And I was like, actually, first I went, because I'm like, he's just going to tell me like how good I sound. Like, he's just going to tell me you sound great. Because this never happened at that time. This has never happened to me before. He stopped and he's like, "This doesn't sound right." And I'm like, "Are you being serious?" I didn't say this, so I'm like thinking, like, "Are you like giving me like a sarcastic / compliment?" But he was like, "This doesn't sound right." He's like, "Listen." He's like, "Let me play the song for you again. Listen to the drums." And then, because I think at first he just played it from his phone or whatever, but then we turned it onto the speakers and I heard the drums, and I'm like, "Oh crap!" The drums were loose. It was. And there was a push and pull, whereas when I played the take, my ego was satisfied because I was playing perfectly to the click. I was so dead on, but the music wasn't satisfied. So what we ended up doing is we did another take. We lowered the click so I could hear all of the guitars and the bass guitar, and I was locking into them. And I noticed that as I was locking into them, the click was here and they were doing this. But then what we did is that when we listen back, you don't, like, when I want to listen to music, no one's going to listen to a song with the click. You take away the click. And when we took away the click, oh baby, it felt nice. We were like completely locked in. Whereas at first, when I laid down like the first track, my obsession was, who cares about the music? Let me see how much I'm locked into the click. So you see, like, there's a shift. You see what level of importance is to what. It's not about in the practice room. Oh hell yeah, like practice to that click, you know. But when you're playing music and when you're playing with people, when you're trying to get into that pocket, it's like take all this, stuff about perfect time that I have to be. No, just listen. Take a deep breath. Okay, I've been into so many instances where I've been stared down. Like, I'll get in. Okay, you know what? Let me give a couple of examples because I want to show. I want to be living proof to you of how important it is for you to make the best judgment for the situation for yourself. Okay, let me give you a couple of instances. First instance where I was a mistake. Okay, I don't want to say that I'm a mistake. The first instance where I made a mistake. I'm not going to say who the artist was. This was like a hip hop thing. We played in New York, in Brooklyn, at a festival like three years ago. And very like mellow, slow, hip hop groovy thing. My kit was like, snare, tom, kick, ride cymbal, one cymbal, hi-hat. That's it, nothing else. And then the artist wanted me to count in the song. So knowing my tendencies, if you ask Sarah to count in the song, you're going to get the whole shebang. You're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we went, cut. And I was like, my ego, I was like, yeah. And okay, when I say ego, I think, let me clarify. I like to use the word ego in this context, like not about I'm better than other people, not that kind of ego. Ego, I guess, like, I don't know. Maybe I can use the word confident or maybe like proud of myself. Not in terms of like, hey, I'm better than you. Absolutely not. Okay. So anyway, I just had to like give a bit of a disclaimer. So I went 1, 2, 3, 4. And I remember like the artist looked at me like, is she okay? Like, can't she not see the vibe that we're like all giving off here? And like the artist is not like someone like who's doing backflips and like into the mic. She's like sitting on a piano. And then she told the music director after like, hey, in the next set, like when Sarah has to count in that tune, can you tell her maybe just to keep it more subtle? And I was like, and he told me that, and they're super cool, but I'm like, okay. So these are like all fun and great lessons that I've used, and this all contributes to groove and pocket. It's, you know what? It's a whole mental thing. It's a whole mind, body, spirit, understanding body language thing. I'll give you another example. So when I was in this whole, in that whole phase of like locking into the metronome, being hired to play in different genres, then I started touring with like a Cuban fusion band. I don't want to say the name. Great people. It was a lot of fun. One of the musicians was rude to me a lot, like very mean to me. And the reason, so she or he, I'm not going to say who, this person was really mean to me a lot because every time I would speed up, that person would turn around and give me like a glare every single time. It made me very conscious and it made me very edgy. Because I felt that this person's pocket was slightly ahead naturally. So while this person's pocket was ahead, I felt, okay, if this person is playing ahead, let me join them. Let me push it a bit. But then if she's playing ahead or he's playing ahead by nature, and if I'm playing ahead, so we're just both pushing it. Whereas this person's natural time feel was ahead, and I had to push it back a little bit. So, and it's like, I didn't appreciate like getting these glares and like, and like some of the statements that were made. I'm like, that's not cool. Like, just tell me, like say, hey, can you lay back? And I remember because of the anxiety that I felt and all these nerves that I was feeling on the stage, that now every time I played, I have to be aware of my time. I was inevitably speeding up because like now I'm anxious. Like now I'm like scared as hell to play now with you. So it's like now, then I learned like how to deal with the anxiety aspect, how not to let anybody intimidate you, how to like listen, I'm all about taking criticism all the time. You have to, that's how you learn and you grow. But it's like, take it in and then learn how to constructively use it and cut away the outside noise rather than having this anxiety and self-doubt and all of these impacting your performance. Because listen, in my experience, probably maybe in some of yours, as soon as the self-doubt comes in while you're playing, as soon as the anxiety, the self-doubt, either you'll start speeding up or you're going to start slowing down. Now, this leads me to my next point I want to make, okay? My next point that I want to make is that a lot of music does speed up and does slow down. It does. If you listen to Tower of Power, even in a lot of like the music that I listen to, and now I'm listening to like with full like crazy ears now. I can hear it. Even if it's playing with the metronome. Like, I always recommend this app to everybody. It's called Live BPM. I've mentioned it like in so many of our streams that we've done. This app has changed my life because literally it's a graph. You turn on a song, you have the graph open, and you can see this slight speeding up, slight slowing down. So what I did is I trained myself to hear it. I trained myself to hear when it goes up by 1 BPM. Oh, it went back. So like now I feel like I can hear even if it goes like half a BPM faster. Let's say I'm just listening to drums. Anybody, I can hear the snare goes 1 BPM faster or half a BPM slower or even whatever it is. Like now I've trained myself to be completely aware. Not saying that I don't do it. Like, yeah, I do speed up and I do slow down. Miles Davis has that quote. Okay, I'm going to paraphrase it wrong. But this quote is basically your attitude or something. No, the note you play is 10% or something like that, or 15%. The note you play is only like 10% of it. And the way and the attitude that you play is like 90% of it. I'm not even going to touch the drums today. Actually, I was going to I'm going to not touch the drums. I've touched enough drums for every lesson. I'm not touching the drums today. Because I really want you to digest this information. You know, it doesn't matter how fast, how slow, what 5/4, 7/4. I just had a recording session yesterday where we were playing a song that was so trippy, like so hard, where we were playing like 5. We were playing 5 into 4 and 4 into 5, and the band would start in 4, and I had to come in playing 5 over 4. It was so much fun. It is fun. Like, I'm not saying I love to do it all the time, but this, if this concept is understood, feel, groove, pocket, attitude, the maturity, and it's like this. There's so much music out there. Like, there's even I'll give you an example. So I'm Indian, right? My background is Indian. We come from the Gujarati. We're Gujarati. That's a part of India. Now we speak Gujarati, but we speak a dialect of Gujarati, which is Kutchi. Kutchi, Kutcchi, something like that. Kutchi. So Kutchi in itself, and so my fiance is from his family speaks Gujarati, and my family speaks Kutchi. They're both Gujarati and Kutchi. The language is very related, but they're so different at the same time. He makes fun of me. He'll go, "Oh," he's like, Kutchi. He's like, when you speak Kutchi, it sounds like you're very. He's like, you guys sound like you're so angry all the time, and I'm like, listen, when you speak Gujarati, you guys sound like you're always falling asleep because Gujarati is very, like very like this, and Kutchi's like, and it's like the pronunciation and the emphasis. So let me give you a couple of, I'll tell you where I'm going with this, okay? So it's like, even when you think you know a genre, like if I just said Gujarat, it's already vague. Number one, when someone says India, listen, that's like saying North America. That's like even saying America. Like, for example, when I talk to somebody in New York, they'll go, Sarah. I get this all the time, Sarah. Or a Canadian goes, hey, Sarah. Or French goes, Saha. Or like in my culture, my friends call me Sarah. And then, yeah. So it's like, how many different ways? So, and you can tell where the person's from. And this is 1,000,000,000% applied to Groove and Pocket. 1/500. I don't understand why there's a difference and why this is not talked about enough. Like drum books shouldn't even, the drum book shouldn't even exist until your ears are on the music, until you can hear something. And I also said this to say, in a lifetime, I think one cannot listen to all the music that's out there. In terms of, obviously not all the music, but I mean in terms of the variety in all the genres of music. I don't believe one can. If I'm just giving you an example of Kutch and Gujarat, if I'm giving an example to you of my name being said in 5 different ways, imagine all the like, there's Kutchi, there's Gujarat, and there's even like other ones. In Canada, okay, in everyone says Toronto. Hey, I love Toronto. But then there's Scarborough, there's Etobicoke, there's Markham, then there's Pickering, then there's Ajax, then there's Brampton, there's Kitchener, Bradford, whatever. Like and then there's Oshawa. Then you have then if you go to downtown Toronto, there's Cabbagetown. There's whatever. Like there's so many sub things. So I'm saying this to say that I'm not telling you that you should have to listen to everything and have a reference to everything. No. You know what you need? Okay, I don't want to say you need, but what I think what is good to have is an open mind. Why I love practicing to systems, if I'm trying to improve my coordination, independence, and dexterity, why I believe what's so important to practice systems is because literally you can play anything you want in any given moment, and that you have been given the tools to have that flexibility to play anything at a given moment. Not saying that you have to learn everything, because let's be real, there's not enough time in the day to do that. So that's the same thing with understanding and solidifying the understanding of groove and pocket. It's not playing all the grooves in the world. It's not, let me pick up 500 books and play each Cuban, Brazilian, Latin. Oh my, and that I have another issue with, okay? It's not about that. It's about, let me sit here. Let me hear the song. Tell me, like, this is my approach now. When I meet somebody new, when I'm walking into a new situation, I go, Chris, so great to meet you. And I'm like, oh, like I'll do some research. I'm like, who are your influences? Okay, a little bit of Hendrix, or a little bit of this. Oh, I see. Who are your okay, I see the direction. Okay, who are the musicians? I always do a background check. I always do a background check on everybody who I play with beforehand, because then I have an idea. Like the bass player, he plays 6 string, he plays 4 string, he plays 5 string. What's his tone? What's his, what's the piano player? And it's like I do just, it takes 5 minutes. Even if you have no time, park your car 5 minutes earlier before outside the studio or gig, just quickly open your phone and get the vibe. And you can feel the vibe instantly. And sometimes you'll be off. I've been off. You know how many times I've been thrown off? Either because I'm overthinking in my head, or they want me to be completely opposite of what they are. So walk in the room with I need to play to this. Walk into the room with a complete open mind of your ears, listening, awareness, and being open to anything and all possibilities. And that will help you be very good with your groove and your pocket in any situation. Let's even get into like this whole thing of Latin music. These books, I talk about this pet peeve of mine, Latin book A, groove B, groove C. Really? Great, but really? Where can you make a list for me of what albums you got this from? Which some of them do, but sometimes I feel like people who for educators, if one doesn't come from a culture of music, and like this is to me a very serious topic, because this is how intense groove and pocket is to me. It's not just like we're just playing a bunch of notes. It's a very serious thing. Think about it. Groove and pocket is someone's life, a culture's lineage, culture's life of how they sit and dance, how they fell in love with their partner when they danced on the dance floor. When there was a funeral, is it like a second line music from New Orleans? Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that music, it came from, marching in a funeral. There's so much depth. And to just pick up a book and play a 4/4 groove, to me, is so disheartening. Get a drum machine, then. Why are you hiring me for that? Okay? That's why this level of importance and understand of grooving is so important to me. I think it should be to everybody, and I think it needs to be talked about a lot, instead of like everyone just like giving out PDFs of like right, left, played in 500 different ways. Just cool, but again, bread and butter, okay? If we take Latin music, okay, which is another term that I'm not a fan of because it's too broad. Like, what is Latin? Even this whole thing of world music. Oh, like, listen, We can go on this rant all day. World music? What is world? I don't understand. Like some of these labels and terminologies don't serve the purpose of the music. They don't serve the groove in the pocket, and they actually, you know what? Quite frankly, they take one away from it. So anyway, aside from my rant, Latin, whatever that means, music. Let's just take Cuban and Brazilian music. You know, there's so many situations where I hear people playing Latin music and they go and here there's Latin music applied into so many different genres. Even like there's some like Latin-esque grooves. And so when I hear the word Latin-esque, I just think of offbeats. If someone doesn't come from the tradition and they want a Latin flair, like when I used to play in the church, some of the tunes that we played had a Latin flair. And it was sick. It was so cool. And the way I had to play Latin in that church or in that situation, it was more funk Latin, like or like or that even goes into go-go music, which is like DC funk. So okay, but it's interesting. Okay, we're getting into something, but I have to finish my first point. So being asked to play the Latin-esque grooves in the church, or even, in Indian music, do you know that there was a whole era of Latin music in Indian music, in Bollywood music? That's how I got into playing Latin music. Seriously. Bollywood music from the 50s or 60s up until the 90s, even 2000s, like there was guiro, conga, bongo, timbale, clave. There was there was a whole era where there was no tabla and no Indian percussion. There was only Latin percussion, but it was played differently. There's I wish I could show it to you, but I have a drum. So, okay, little disclaimer. If you go on my YouTube page, if you go to youtube.com/Sarah T Drum Guru, if you scroll down to 2009, 2010, that was like when I was like in high school, and I was posting videos playing on more percussion back in the day. You'll find in those videos, you'll see something called Indian congos or Indian congas. And what that is that's these three drums, a low, medium, and a high drum. And these, from my understanding, if I'm not mistaken, these three drums came from Latin percussion. So when Indian and Bollywood music had this whole era of Latin music influence, primarily Cuban music, the Indian incredible genius musicians, they made these Indian congas that cater to Indian percussionists. Because when you're playing tabla or dholak, these Indian percussion instruments, the technique that you're using is more finger-based, right? Like tad, it's all finger nuance. Whereas conga, when you're playing conga, you're literally like, right? Like slap tone. Whereas if you're playing tabla, you're going dik nana tik nana tik nana tik dana dik na, and it's all about the index finger. So what did these genius musicians do from India? They took the genius music from the Cuban tradition. They made these three drums and they called it Indian congas. But they made these Indian congas in such a way that they could play it with their tabla technique. Isn't that crazy? So if you watch these videos like 10, 11 years ago on my pages and you look up Indian congas, Sarah, if you just want to look that up, you'll see how I'm playing those congas. I'm playing gat, do, do, gat. And even if you go on YouTube, type up Bollywood songs, Latin, or there's a composer named R.D. Burman. R.D. Burman, like, he's one of my heroes. Like, my dad and I, like, since I was a kid, I would fall asleep listening to his music. Him and his father's music, S.D. Burman and R.D. Burman. Oh my God, like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about these songs. Like, there's a song called Aona, A-A-O-N-A, by the singer Asha, A-S-H-A, and then Bhosle, B-H-O-N-S-L-E. I know I'm spelling it out, but after the stream, if you rewind it, you can just, like, Google it. And it's funny that all of these musicians, like when I would play these gigs with my dad's band and whatever, it would be me on drums or percussion. It would be a tabla player, a dholak player, bongo player, Indian conga player. Like we would have a whole setup, and we'd all be playing. And it's so funny that none of us knew that it was Latin music. We had no idea until I went to school and I walked into university and I started playing. I'm like, hey, prof, check out this Indian rhythm. He's like, what? He's like, Sarah. He's like, this is not Indian rhythm. He's like, this is a Latin rhythm. I'm like, and I ran home and I'm like, well, I mean, I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, these beats that we've been playing on these like 3 drums, this is actually not an Indian beat. This has been taken from the Cuban culture, from Cuban music. Then I started like doing so much research on Artie Berman, and I found out that apparently Artie went to New York. Like, I mean, he's passed away. It's been like back in the 60s, 70s. And he used to listen to, from my understanding, and I could be wrong, but from what I've been told, he was listening to like Latin big bands, Cuban music, and he went to study that music, and then he came to into the Bollywood scene, and then they made it their own. So all of us had no idea that it was Latin. We just thought it was. And funny enough, so there was the 3 Indian congas that came from the Cuban culture. Now, if I take the same groove that I was playing in Bollywood, do with my finger, right? Not even the slap tone technique. And let's say I went to a Cuban gig, which I did at some point right after, and it didn't sound good. When I went to and now if I go into the Cuban gig, and let's say they go, I can't play that same beat in the Cuban setting, right? Look already. I just gave you signs of why. First sign I gave you, the way I counted it in the Indian realm. Okay, this is Bollywood. This is the Cuban world. Okay, we're in Bollywood. I went 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see it's very like, not saying it's straight. And this is another thing about Groove in Pocket. It's not straight, but it's kind of like in between. Right? Whereas in the Cuban world, I counted into you in clave, right? I went ga 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 ga, and I landed on the offbeat, and then I came in gut. So that's already a cue that technically on paper, if you bought a book that said Mambo Book 1, and if you try to find a relevant MP3, if you didn't find a relevant MP3, you would have been like, oh my God, like I know Latin music. Like, here we go. I can play. Absolutely not. You'll get fired. Because with the way in Cuban music, to me it's like, it's like you're taking like an elastic band. Even like Brazilian music, which I'm kind of like, like right now in my mind as I'm trying to tell you Cuban music, I'm thinking of a surdo, right? Like in Brazilian music, there's this big drum. I believe it's called a surdo, where it's this big drum. You have a stick, and there's like cotton around the stick, and you hit it. And already by just going, I'm hesitating. What does that mean? And that I'm laying back a bit. And the funny thing, the Cuban swing versus the Brazilian swing versus the Indian swing versus the hip hop swing versus the jazz swing, and all of these are also dependent on the era. You've maybe heard, or you've heard, like my right cymbal, fly me to the moon, or like it can be loose, or like some people like to put their skip beats very tight, or like the Pink Panther, the movie The Pink Panther, doo 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 doo. It's like the swing is like very triplety, I think. And then even the accent, or like depending on the era, bebop era, big band era, fusion era, even the hip hop, even the Indian music. Oh my God, the one groove, the way you play the snare, the way you will fit in and be in the pocket is not by, I don't know, like right left kick. Absolutely not. It is by heightening your awareness of and heightening your ears of what sits in different genres. And like I said earlier, it gets very overwhelming if we have to think of all the genres in the world, right? So if you just train your ear, like how we practice systems, so that we can pull out anything out of our toolbox. If I want to play eighth notes with my hi-hat, okay, if I want to play eighth notes with my hi-hat, 2, 4, okay. If I want to play kick on 1 and 3, 2 and 4 on the snare, hi-hat, let's say ends, okay? And ride cymbal ends. If I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what if I want to put my left foot hi-hat on the ends only, but make it seamless? Like, look, I'm taking out of my toolbox. What? Look, and okay, now in quarters. 2, 3, 4. What else can I do? E. So do you see, like, easily what I'm thinking? It literally just came out, right? Actually, I haven't even practiced the E in a long time. Or actually, no, I've never practiced it. But because I can hear that, I just felt in my head, I could do it. So I'm saying that there's no need to get overwhelmed that you have to listen to all of these genres, that you have to, I have so much work to do. It's like, if you just heighten your awareness, like when you listen to an album, not that you have to be so focused on it, but just be aware. Just like be open. And as you're more aware, and just be like, I have a question. Like, what is this bass doing? Ask the question. What is the drummer doing? How does this make me feel? How are they sitting? Okay, let me open Wikipedia or Google. Now, where's this band from? New York, Bronx, Havana, Gujarat? You know, there's like an instrument called the dhol, the D-H-O-L. And the dhol is basically this huge, gigantic barrel drum that has a low and a high. Now, check this. Excuse me. It's allergy season. Oh my God, I'm allergic to grass. Sorry. So there's a big barrel drum, and there's a low and there's a high. And with this big barrel drum, so this drum is played in different contexts. But I would like to say, just for the sake of this explanation, we played in Gujarat, like Gujarati style music, and in Punjabi. So now let me say something quickly before I get back to this and finishing the story. In Punjab, like Punjabi food. Okay, let me give you an example. Punjabi food, Gujarati food, Bengali food. It is like even I want Indian food, some curry, butter chicken. It's like okay, like it's so vague. My dad and my mom, like they can take one bite. They can even smell, like if you had curry chicken from Punjabi. Okay, let's say, my favorite food is biryani. Like I'm on my diet, so I can't eat too much of it. But it's like literally rice and like chicken is so good. So biryani, if you have biryani from Punjab, biryani from like Bengali biryani, and then you have Gujarati biryani. My parents, they can smell it and tell you instantly if it's Bengali, Punjabi, or Gujarati. One taste, and they can just tell. It's like it. And if you look at the plate, if I look at the plate, I'm like, what are you guys talking? Like even Pakistani biryani, Bengali biryani, Punjabi biryani, and Gujarati biryani. It's like, I'm like, I can't see. And it's like the same thing as looking at a book. Like I can't see. But because they've throughout the years have like eaten the food, cooked the food, they can been with people who have whatever. So like day and time, they can just taste the specific spice that gives it away. And it's like the subtlety. Whereas let's say they wanted to like start a commercial business, they didn't care about the culture and heritage. They said, hey, we're giving free biryani, for like $5. And let's say the Indian people probably wouldn't go because they'd know it's like fake and just like a money making thing. But all the people who don't care about knowing where it's from, they'll go, yeah, we'll have some rice and chicken and you'll make money, everyone. Yeah, rice, chicken. We know what we're eating. Indian food. Hey, selfie, Instagram. Indian food. We love this place. Woo. Right. And like that will happen, but that doesn't make it right. Right. So it's like, go the extra mile. I want to tell you to go the extra mile. Get in depth with culture. get in depth at understanding where was this person. It makes a difference. Like if the drummer is born in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, even like in my head, I have the sound of Dave Weckel's Yamaha drums. What's the what is the is it Fiesta El Tiempo, something like that, El Tiempo Fiesta, something like that. But it's like I have that sound, very tight drums. Even when Steve Gadd back in the day, ooh-wee, the drums sounded different. Even like now, this whole thing of like drier sounds, like on cymbals and stacking cymbals. Before, from my recollection, it was more open sounding. Before, drums were more like sounding bigger, cymbals were more washier. Now it's all like very like, and even everything has evolved. So if again, like, I am not putting anybody on the spot. I am not trying to put any shade on everybody, because like everybody has their own purpose with music. Like maybe some people, they resonate with 2 and 4 on the backbeat. Maybe some people don't want to learn about culture, and it's your life. I'm not here trying to like make you live a certain way or telling you what's right or wrong, because I don't believe that. I believe we all have one life. But what I do believe is I think it's important to be open to all of the possibilities that are out there, and then making an informed decision about what you want. If you are aware of that there's Pakistani biryani, that there's Gujarati biryani, that there's Punjabi biryani, and that there's Bengali biryani, if you are aware of all these types of biryanis, and then you go to that commercial biryani place that is all about the Instagram selfies and they have no understanding of where the biryani is from, and after understanding that this exists, then you decide to go there, okay, fine. I'm cool with that. But if you have no idea that these specific like nuances and the cultures exist, if you have no idea, and that's the first source that you go, then I got a problem with that. Right? If you're gonna like go on YouTube and, you know, like not listen to any sort of music, and just go on YouTube, let me just play a paradiddle, or let me just play a pocket. Teach me the top groove to play, or teach me which groove sits in the pocket. I don't know. Like I see, sometimes I'm like, I've been told things. I'm just like, it drives. It's like, as I feel like I need to itch like myself. Like it just gives me like the heebie-jeebies. Like I can't do it, because it's like, you know, there are people, our ancestors. They have sacrificed their lives to play these grooves. You know, like it is so serious to make it feel so good. Now we have all these laptops and computers because of the sufferings of our ancestors. They didn't have access to this technology. So now it's so easy for us to click, click, click. Latin groove, Indian groove, this groove. And that's suffering and understanding of heart and soul. Sometimes to a drummer that's new and who is at no fault and has no direction. Maybe this new drummer didn't grow up in a musical family, has no reference point, and this poor drummer just goes on YouTube and types stuff up like, how can I play drums? Or like, how can I play groove? Or what is groove? And then sometimes like some videos that pop up from other people or whatever, it's like, it's not accurate information. So it's not the drummer's fault at all. It's the people who are informed to spread about groove, pocket. Oh my God, it's 2:17. I've been talking like... this topic is like, this is very hardcore. I hope everyone's like, I hope this is resonating. You can let me know this is resonating if this is helpful. There's no exercise for how to improve your groove and pocket. There's no exercise at all. The only thing I will tell you is open your ears. When you go to your Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, when you go listen to music in your car, listen to music in a different perspective. Listen to music and think of components like this. All right, I'm hearing the song. All right, I hear the guitar. I hear the bass. And don't even be pissed at yourself. Like, don't even be angry if you can't hear if something is ahead or behind. If you can't hear if some things are tight, if it's loose or tight or whatever. You don't be just go in with an open mind. Do some research on the albums that you're listening to. Find out where the Questlove is from. Find out where John Bonham was from. Find out who are their influences. Find out who Kenny Clark is. He was such a big influence on incorporating the bass drum to like play, you know, in jazz, and like just find it out. You know, like Tony Williams, the left foot hi-hat was so, and it's like all of these things, and then you see You see the musicians they're playing with, and then you'll see how they play. Do they play a lot of notes? Like, for example, they're like, for me, if I'm playing my music with like my band, I tell everybody I like to play busy. I tell them, I'm like, listen, I'm like, this is my band. I want to play busy. I'll play groove, yeah, blah blah, but I want to play busy. So I'm like, you guys have to keep the groove for me. And I tell them, going to get. And I'll go, so it's like, it's just awareness. So, okay, I think, okay, I'm out of time. Can someone say hey? Yeah, I just want to make sure everyone's listening, make sure my mic is working, make sure I'm still alive here. And I hope this helps everybody. And like literally for homework, all I ask is that when you, let me refresh the page. Maybe I haven't. I just want to make sure everyone's listening. Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, good. I had to just refresh my page. Okay, good. So anyway, this is what I wanted to talk about. And what I want to leave with you is this. Start listening to the music in a different way. Start listening to the different instrumentalists and musicians that are on the records. Just wrap your head around the idea of ahead, behind, straight, swung. And you know, even I'll take it a step further and actually don't think about it. Don't even intellectualize it. Just try and listen to it from your heart and from a feeling perspective. Because, you know, I'll tell you, for me, like when I started playing grooves and like especially Indian music and things growing up, I never had like definitions of tight, swung, and all that. I just listened to the music. And then later the definitions came. So that's what I want to preach to you, and I want that to be your homework. Listen to music as you already are, but listen to it in a very open mind of understanding in terms of maturity. Go on a quick Wikipedia page. Understand what the genre of music is. Understand what is pocket. What do you hear? Do you hear a clave? Do you hear a timbale? Do you hear a conga? What do you hear? What are the sound sources? What does the bass drum sound like? What is the bass drum? Is it like big? Is it tight? Is it punchy? What's the ride cymbal like? What is it loose on the record? It's like all of these things, and you'll see it's like a diagram and a web. Like everything is connected. So that is my homework for you, is let's work on our awareness with no judgment. Don't get mad at yourself if you can't hear things. Just first pick up on things. Okay, John Mayer, drummer Aaron Sterling, one of my favorites, by the way. Okay, John Mayer, drummer Aaron Sterling, or sometimes Steve Jordan plays. What kind of hi-hats do they use? I know Steve sometimes uses like thicker, beefier hi-hats. The kick drum is not very punchy. It's big. It's not too big. It's not too punchy, but it kind of sits in the middle. And the ride cymbal. There's this one video on YouTube where Steve is just playing pocket, and then he goes, and the ride cymbal is so washy. So that's my association with John Mayer and his music and his sound sources. What does that mean? Where's John from? What's his era? When was he born? Who are his influences? Like I believe he's played with like Eric Clapton or like a lot of like those kind of people. So it's just, and I promise you, like this will change your perspective. This will change your playing, and you'll come from a different understanding. So don't worry about intellectualizing things too much. There's a difference between this and mind and like in your gut. There's a difference between your mind and there's your gut. Okay? So let's tap into our gut. Let's tap into our body. Let's get out of our head. Okay? I didn't understand what swung. Okay, I knew what's versus da-da-da-da. I knew what that was, but I didn't like label it until I was like later in my teen years. And I didn't care. I didn't need to. If someone just went or someone went that's all I need to know. I don't need to. This is 16. So I mean, that's good. It's good. But I believe that if you associate your feeling and emotion first, that will click and that will resonate, and this will bring the passion. This will bring out the love, right? Even like okay, I'm gonna end on this. Okay. There are singers, right? Singers can resonate with audiences very easily, in my opinion, even if the singer is completely out of it, but they have words that can the audience can immediately grab onto and latch onto, right? We don't even have pitches. We have sound sources. And I've heard people say, oh, drums, you can't convey emotion or blah. I'm like, oh, I don't agree with that. Okay? So that's why it's like when you incorporate your gut, your feel into your playing, into your pocket, into your understanding, you will see the people vibing with you. We are as powerful as the singer. Okay, we deserve to be in the front. Okay? Okay, listen, my beautiful friends and my lovely people. Okay? I hope this was helpful to you. Um, and I hope this helped you today in some way, shape, or form. All right. Are there any last questions that I can answer in like the next minute or so? I know today was a lot of talking, but this stuff, I think, it changed my life. And it has changed my life, and it continues to change my life. So I really hope that it did and will do to yours. Okay? So guys, I love you all. Thank you for tuning in as always, and I will see you guys. Let me make my exit pretty, okay? Let me get my exit ready. I love you guys. Thank you so much, and I shall see you next Thursday at 1 p.m. EST. Listen to music with no judgment. Listen to music with your heart and soul. No putting labels onto things. Become aware of the sound sources that are being used in each genre. Open up Wikipedia page. Do a little Google research. Let's get in a bit deeper. And in that way, and with all the awareness that you develop, by not even thinking, by just listening, you'll notice that when you're playing in different situations, you'll know what sound sources to use. The tip of the stick, the shaft of the stick. Open hi-hats, closed hi-hats, playing a bit behind. Where is the other player sitting? And these things will just come. So just let's have an open mind and increase our awareness. And I see you next Thursday. Much love. Bye.